This is The Therapist's Couch with Virginia Corbett, licensed counselor, where professional insight supports personal growth. Join us for authentic conversations that inspire growth, healing, and hope. Welcome to The Therapist's Couch. In today's episode, we talk about family ties, how to stay connected without losing yourself. We'll explore guilt, obligation, toxic patterns, and the courage it takes to loosen, cut, or retie relationships in a healthy way. It's a deep and honest conversation about love, boundaries, and healing. Let's begin.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello. How are you, Kiarra?
Good. I'm good. It's not sunny today. Today we're in a cloudy studio day, and that's how it is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
On a cloudy day?
On a cloudy day, yeah.
That's amazing. You should bottle that and sell it.
Mind over matter.
Are you telling yourself to be fantastic?
I am.
Is it working?
Pretty much, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. I've decided I'm going to have a fantastic day, too. Just now.
All right. All right.
Okay, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about family ties.
Okay.
Family ties and why. What ties us together, the ties that bind. And specifically today, focusing on the healthy ties and looking at where the unhealthy ties are.
Now, when you say ties, like you're saying the things that make us want to stay a family, that makes us want to go see each other, spend time together, be in each other's houses, all of those kind of things.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, what is that anyway? What is that, the family that what is that pulls families together and makes you want to spend a lifetime together?
Yeah. I think that's a good question, and I think it's different for every family. I don't know if you were asking me like a question, but when you said it, it made me think about all the obligations that you feel like you have with family. So we should act like a family. We should have dinner together. We should be at every event, every christening, every baptism, every sporting event. And I think those are the things that are just assumed. And it's challenging when you have difficulties in the relationship to decide if those assumptions still fit.
Absolutely.
Or if you need to make a whole nother set of assumptions.
Well, both you and I do family therapy.
Yeah.
So family is obviously important to us. You know, we've dedicated a career to this.
Yeah.
So we think family's important.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it should be.
Why?
Oh. What do you think, Jenny? Why do you think family is important?
Wow. Well, you know, I think it is the stability of it's our identity. You know, it's who we are and who we become and what we pass on. It's our identity and our legacy.
Yeah.
And it has a lot to do with family. You know, and as I get older, I appreciate the people who've gone before me. I really, really appreciate, you know, thinking back to like, you know, I had immigrant parents that, you know, came, or grandparents that came to the United States, and like what a sacrifice they made, you know, leaving everything they knew. And you know, I had a grandmother who was she was a go-getter. She was a formidable woman, and I appreciate, you know, how stable and what she did and what her life meant. So I do, you know, appreciate what has been handed to me.
Yeah.
And it's important that I hand, you know, the next generation.
That's so much of who you are. Like, you've told me stories about you now and the history of your family as an immigrant family, but also you as an American woman living in your life, and how those things like coalesce together. And that's so much of you. That's so much of your personality, of how you cook, of how you,
Yes,
you know, all of that is you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when we think about the ties that we have to our family. In some ways, if you have to sever some of those ties, you kind of have to wrestle with, am I losing a part of myself in this too? And in some ways you are, and in some ways you're not.
Yes.
And that, I think, is part of what makes this so challenging to wrestle through. How do I navigate these family ties? Because in navigating them, I'm navigating myself also.
What about you? What about you with your family and the strength of why is family important to you? Why do you counsel couples? Why do you do that?
Oh, I love relationships. I think I always have. And not just romantic relationships, but like all relationships. And I love them because I think that there is like a depth of intimacy between two people that can't be explained, but is very real in how it's felt and how it's experienced. It's almost like if you're at a concert and you've been waiting and like the crowd is doing the thing, and then the artist comes out and there's like this electricity that you can feel, and they're getting ready to sing the song, and you make eye contact with a total stranger, and you know and they know we're about to sing this song together, and the artist starts singing the song, and you're like singing to each other, and there is this deep connection that's happening, and it does something for our souls. It does something for the core of our personhood, and that's just with a stranger at a concert.
Yes,
the ties and electricity and the connection that we feel with our family is even deeper. I was in a trauma training one time, and the woman was saying that one of the ways that you can heal trauma is by being in a choir. And I was like, that makes no logical sense. Like, what are you saying? And she was explaining part of the reason. I mean, there's some vagus nerve stimulation that happens when you sing.
Yeah.
But the other part was the deep intimacy that you feel when you and another person are doing a shared goal. When you're living in a shared experience, there's something about that recalibrates you. We have mirror
absolutely
that
absolutely
recalibrate us. And so family is the like one of the deepest forms of those connections.
Yes.
So I don't know, I think all of that is why I love relationships and why they are important.
Yeah. Well, and as a therapist, one of the things that we know is emotional healing happens in connection.
Yeah.
Emotional healing happens when you're heard, and when somebody says, I get it. I see how hard that would be. That has a healing effect.
And the reverse has a damaging effect. Every time that we've been in a relationship and we've given a little bit of our vulnerability to somebody, and they've smacked it out of our hand, they've talked about themselves when we were talking about us, or they didn't hear us, they missed the point. It hurts.
It absolutely
to the same degree
hurts.
that it could heal if they heard us.
And makes us so we won't be vulnerable next time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So getting back to family ties, what are some of the ideas that have make us think that family ties are important? Or what are some of the ideas that have come to us? One of them is distance equals betrayal. If you're distant from me, there's a betrayal in that.
Yeah, it's this idea that we almost like we're tied contractually. I think like gang or mafia kind of family. I know that might be extreme, but there's an unspoken and a spoken expectation that's really heavy, and if you break that, you feel the consequence of that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so in your family, maybe for some families, you move to another state, or you invite your in-laws to a thing and not your family of origin, and that distance feels like, how could you do this to me? And we have all these like secret contracts that we don't know about until we breach them.
Then we find out.
And then we find out that we breached them, and then we're like,
well, and then there's just some sayings or some mantras, like blood is thicker than water. Those kind of just things that you just, the ties that bind, the things that we just say.
Oh, I saw a sign outside that said a family that prays together stays together. And I've heard that one before. But what if we move? Does that mean that we're still a family that stays together? What if we don't? Like, there's a whole bunch of questions.
And that gets to the next one. That's another part of that is guilt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I could, if I would, if I, there's that guilt piece. And sometimes people use guilt to manipulate.
Yeah.
And we sometimes put the guilt on ourselves.
Guilt is strong.
Guilt is strong.
Guilt is hard to navigate. It's hard to sit in. It's hard to feel. The things I've seen people do to try to get out of guilt, they wouldn't have done if they didn't feel that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
That saying, guilt is the gift that keeps on giving?
No, I've never heard that. People say that? Yeah. Have those people ever felt guilty? That's a terrible gift.
Well, pack your bags. You're going on a guilt trip.
That's kind of. I've never heard that. That's clever.
But there's a lot of the guilt is a big manipulator, and it's a big way the long suffering grandma who's like, it's okay, darling, you can go now. There's
feel like she's stabbed in the side.
Yeah.
Oh, I can never leave.
Yeah. And it's interesting that guilt is such a big motivator in our life.
Yeah.
It's not the way we want to be motivated.
But it's one of them. And it's interesting. We are saying that family ties are important because connection is good, because healing is good. And guilt it's so interesting. Guilt it's a manipulative connection. We came for genuine, authentic, vulnerable connection, and guilt takes that and twists it into something else that makes you feel like you have to stay connected. And that's the opposite of genuine connection. So that's really interesting.
Well, let's talk about how we can identify toxic ties.
Yeah. Because guilt sure is on that list.
Guilt sure is on that list. But, one of the ways we can identify is things that drain you. If it drains you, if you have a relationship that is always draining you, there's a fairly good chance it's a toxic tie.
When you say drain, what do you mean? Like, what could people see that will let them know, oh, I'm being drained?
That kind of depleted. Like, you get off you read the text like, oh,
It's all my energy.
Yeah, it drains you. Every time you deal with it, it's just like, ugh. It just, and you had a good point about toxic ties, when we were talking a little bit, is that sometimes it's okay. Sometimes in a relationship, you're going to feel drained.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean it's toxic.
Yeah. You got to be careful about, being drained and totally writing that person off.
Yeah.
Because every relationship's going to drain you sometimes.
Yeah, I don't always want to have a very in-depth conversation about the things that are really important to you but not super important to me. Don't always want to do that.
Sometimes that's draining.
Yeah.
But you do that because
you love them.
Yeah, because you love Devontae, so you want to go ahead.
So I'm gonna hear about the Spurs this year. I'm gonna hear about the Lakers this year. Even though I am not good at basketball, but I'm gonna listen to them. Yeah. But if every time I came to any conversation with him and I felt super drained, that would be an indicator that something is wrong.
Another one is when it's conditional.
Okay.
Because unconditional love, there's no conditions. But, if there's conditional things like you need to do this way, and it's a little bit about that unwritten contract.
Yeah.
When you have a relationship and there's always conditions on it, that's also can be a toxic tie.
That's one of my favorite parts of the book. Like, we haven't talked too much about it, and we'll see if it makes it in the final book or if it gets cut. But this idea that we have unwritten contracts that we are fully responsible for, even though we don't know that we signed them, and our family doesn't tell us that we signed them, they just come to collect the payment from the contract. And you're like, I don't owe you. And they're like, oh, but you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember when you were 4?
Yeah. You remember how I fed you? How I take care of you? And then in one sense, you did. And those things have value and they matter. And in the other sense, I did not ask for those things. And so it's both things at the same time. It gets a little tricky in there.
Another one is performance driven.
Yeah.
When you have to perform, when you have to do something like, oh, you didn't bring that pie today?
Oh, well.
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I thought you were going to mow my lawn.
Yeah. You're not high achieving. People aren't celebrating you. You don't have status to offer me in return for me being near you, me being with you. Yeah.
And the performance driven, the conditional, all of those things, that's all a part of that unwritten contract. It's all a part of conditional love, unconditional love and conditional love.
Yeah, you do X and then you do Y.
Yeah, and you have to be a certain way. Because unconditional love is, I love you for you. I love you for you, and you don't have to do a thing.
Yeah.
Just as you are right now, you are sitting there breathing, and I adore you. And that is unconditional love. No conditions.
And it's beautiful. And I think this is hard to talk about because I think humans' ability to give unconditional love is limited compared to like God's ability to give unconditional love. And so I don't think there should be any conditions for you receiving love. But relationships have conditions. I love you for you. But the day you decide to put your hands on me, the conditions of this relationship go into place. I need to make a decision about if I'm still going to be in this relationship, you know?
Absolutely.
And so it's interesting. We don't want people out here performing for love. And these are not connected, but they are. And we want people to recognize that relationships have rules that still matter. You can't be harmful and toxic forever and think that we're going to stay in a relationship. And that's what we're talking about now, how to navigate these ties. If I'm the person who's receiving the benefit, or not the benefit, the drawback of your toxicity, it's not the time for me to be like, well, unconditional love. I love you anyway. Girl, you know?
It's time to put some boundaries
It's
in
time
place.
to have some good boundaries. And that doesn't mean I stop loving you, because love is not earned. But it does mean I need to decide what I do with this relationship.
100%. 100%. And then the other one is kind of the trigger dread.
Oh, what do you mean by trigger dread? I haven't heard.
Well, just the dread when you're triggered by something. The dread, like something happens, I go, oh, here we go again. You know, you know what's coming. You've been here before. You know, a lot of times with my couples, when I do couples counseling, they have the same fight over and over again for 37 years. Yeah. You know, like, are we tired of having the same fight again? This time it's over pancakes, but it's actually the same thing. You know, it's, you know, and identifying what it is that you're disagreeing about and seeing that pattern and like, let's quit having the same fight for 37, 47, 57 years. How long do you want to have that same pattern, that same interaction that just, it's a trigger dread, you know, because you're like, here we go again, jumping on this roller coaster.
That you don't want to be on. Yeah. If you see, I think we would say, if you see all 4 of these things or 3 of these things or even 2 of these things happening in your relationships constantly, this could be a toxic tie. If you're seeing that every time you come to this relationship, you feel dread, you don't want to answer the text, you don't want to look at the phone call, you don't want to show up at the event, that's something to pay attention to. If you feel like you always have to earn something from this person in order for them to love you, value you, think fondly of you, believe you, all of those things, if that's happening. What were the other 2? They're slipping my mind right now.
There's draining you.
Draining you. That's it. That's the one. If you're tired, you came to this conversation with energy and you left with none.
So if you're gonna 2 or 3 of those, and then over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Because those are all normal in every relationship.
Yep.
You know, even a healthy relationship is going to feel those at some times.
Every now and then.
But if it's gone on for months or maybe years, it's the same thing and you can't get out of it and you can't change those patterns, maybe it's time to examine that.
Yeah. And you see it in this one relationship, but you don't see it across the board in other relationships. So you come to this one relationship and you feel drained and you feel performative and you feel like you have to meet all of their conditions and you feel like, I dread this thing. But nobody else makes you feel that way. This is probably something to pay attention to. Now, if you have that in all your relationships, you might be the problem.
You might be.
I'm trying to say it lightly because I don't want to, I don't want to attack. But if it's happening across the board in all your relationships, you might have something going on with you.
It might be time for you to talk to your therapist about your own,
about
your own
me.
stuff.
I'm the common denominator here, and I'm not trying to shame you.
Maybe it's time for a little parts work.
That's it. That's it. Because you don't want to be like that. Nobody wants to be like that. If it's a common thread against all your relationships, you're the common denominator. But if it's one, they might be the common.
Well, you know, and as therapists, that's one of the things that we can finally tell someone after we've gained their trust.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a real, you know, I had a professor that one time was saying, like, you know, as a therapist, it's our job to point out things. And you might be the only person in that person's life that ever actually points out to them, like, hey, you know, they
noticed this.
Yeah, have you noticed this? So sometimes when we've earned someone's trust and we can say to them, you know what, you might consider, you know, that's a real honor for us that someone would trust us enough. And sometimes they leave and never come back.
Well, that also happens.
They're not ready for it. They're not ready for it.
And that's okay.
But sometimes they, you know, it can be a real change in their life.
Yeah. I had someone who I really, really love. They were asking my opinion about their relationships. And I felt so honored that they asked me because they're so strong and so capable. They don't always ask for opinions in general. Not to say they're, infallible. They don't think that about themselves. But they asked me my opinion and they were asking me about their relationships. And I was like, I noticed this common thread in all the stories that you told me. And I wondered if you thought about that. And for her, she was like, I haven't thought about that before. And she didn't take it like an attack. It actually opened her eyes to think about how she's entering these relationships. And if she wants to enter, because I wasn't here to say you need to be different. I just was saying, here's how your portrayal, your showing up in this relationship affects the relationships. Do you want that or not?
Yeah.
And if you do, great. And if you don't, pay attention.
And sometimes it's kind of nice to get another set of eyes on your life.
Yeah.
To get someone else to look over your shoulder and say, hey.
Have you thought about that?
Yeah.
Not judgy, but helpful.
That's helpful. So, once you've identified those toxic patterns, once you've said, okay, this is a tie in my life that I really do think is toxic.
Yeah.
The next thing to do is decide what you're going to do about it. And one of the techniques you can use is a little bit like thinking about your shoes.
Okay.
Like your shoelaces are tied too tight. You can loosen it. You can just pull the whole thing apart, cut it off.
Yep.
Or you can retie it.
I love that. That's actually really simple to think about. Okay, so there's loosening, there's pulling the string out, cutting it,
be done.
and then there's retying it.
Yes.
What does loosening look like?
So loosening, when you notice a toxic relationship or toxic tie, loosening would be to maybe have some small boundaries. Once one thing you could do is start to put, I think I need to put some boundaries here. Now I know you're the queen of boundaries. I happen to know you have very good boundaries.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Talk about putting small boundaries into place.
I tell my clients boundaries are, they're not threats. They're kind of, if you, then I.
Whoa.
That's kind of how I phrase it. It's not the best way I phrased it before, but that's how I'm describing it right now. If this or if you, then I. My boundaries are never about controlling someone else's behavior. They're never about telling someone else that they need to do something else, because I have no control over what anybody else does. But I'm letting you know, if this is happening, then I am going to do this for myself and with myself. If you keep cursing at me on this phone call, I'm going to end this phone call. I'm going to remove myself from this phone call. And that's a little thing. That doesn't mean I'm removing myself from this relationship or I hate you now. And this is not me telling you, you need to stop cussing at me right now. Don't talk to me like that. I mean, you can say those things, but that's not a boundary.
Right.
A boundary has clear parameters.
I'm going to do this if you do that.
Yes. Yes. I've asked you, I've heard this one before. I've asked you not to show up at my kids' baseball games, because of what we've talked about in the past. This is not my story, but this is someone who I've talked to story. I've asked you not to show up at my kids' baseball games. We're not ready for that kind of conversation yet. We still have things in the family to discuss. I've asked you not to do that. If you continue to show up at my kids' baseball games, then I will know our relationship isn't a healthy one, and I will need to keep my kids away from you. I will not be inviting you over for family dinners. I will not be showing up at events for you. I need to make more space.
Boundaries take a lot of courage.
They're so hard and so brave, especially if you're starting to do them.
Yes, if you're not used to it,
man.
And the other thing, it blows people away when someone who is not used to putting boundaries in place, everyone in their family is like, whoa, what's wrong with you?
Oh, I hear this all the time. You went to therapy and you think you know everything now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, come on. Let the person grow.
So there's the small boundaries, and then there's redefining expectations. Another way to loosen your tie a little bit, redefined expectations.
Can I tell you a little small boundary that I set with somebody who I really loved? I have somebody in my life who I love so dearly, and I won't talk about who they are just for their sake, to honor them. They are so smart, and they are a brilliant teacher, and they know so much about a lot of stuff. More stuff probably than I'll ever know in my whole life. And so when we get on the phone, sometimes they just want to tell me everything that they know about this thing, and I don't get to say anything. And it makes it hard for me to want to talk on the phone because I also want to say something. If you take up all the space to talk, I can't talk. And so one day I just worked up the courage. I was like, hey, I really want to talk to you, but sometimes you don't make room for me to say anything. If I can't talk, then it makes me want to call you less. I need more room. So if you can make more room for me to talk, then I want to call you more. And if not, then I'm probably going to call you less. I'm just going to tell you the truth. And the person heard that. And
Wow.
I can tell now when we talk on the phone, they will intentionally stop. I know, I can see in my mind, I know they had another story. And they'll say, no, go ahead. And it makes me feel so loved.
Oh.
And I do talk to them more now.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
A boundary that works.
Little small one too. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to get rid of them.
Yeah.
I just am going to talk less if you don't let me talk.
So there's the boundary, if you then I. Then there's redefining expectations.
Yeah.
And that, I think that can be very helpful because you don't have to confront a person or put anything out there to redefine expectations.
How have you seen this done, either by you or family or in your
Oh
office?
my gosh. I totally do this in my own life a lot.
Yes. I like this about you.
I just like, if I see someone is really not going to do what I think they're going to do, and I was just talking with a client about how, I kind of have these buckets that having people that can be very vulnerable with, and then people less and less and less. The people that I'm very vulnerable with, I have some pretty high expectations. But, sometimes if you have someone here, like, you know what, you're going to continually disappoint me. You're going to say, I tell you a story and you're always going to gossip about it, or I feel like you're going to judge me, or, there's expectations you have. Well, then I'm going to put you in a different category.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you be you.
Yeah.
But I can't
Treat you like a close
Yeah.
because you're not acting like a close friend.
Yeah. Or maybe I rely on you to bring something to the family dinner and you never bring it. And then there's a hole in the dinner, which is fine. It's not that big a deal.
Sure.
But
I'm
maybe
asking you for this.
Yeah, you might say I'm going to bring it, but I'm going to have a backup because I'm not going to really expect you to bring it. So, like people tell you how to, when people tell you how they are, believe them.
Yeah.
Don't.
I think Maya Angelou said that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If people show you who they are,
Believe them. That sounds like something Maya Angelou would say.
Wise.
She's so wise. But yeah, that don't keep expecting something that someone won't deliver on.
Some of the hardest grief work I've ever done with clients has been expectations of parents or spouses that they really want to reconcile, but they can't. They can't figure out how to put these two together. For example, you were my mom. I expected you to love me. I expected you to take care of me, to show up, and consistently you show me you're not. And sitting with people in that grief of recalibrating their brain has been some of the most hard and painful work that I've done. And it's been so necessary for them.
Yeah. And that redefining that expectations frees you to not have your heart broken again and again and again.
Yes.
When you're
and to figure out how to
disappointed.
move on with your life and the way you want.
So that is the loosening of the strings. Let's talk about the cutting or the just totally untying.
Yeah.
That cutoff, which is, I think kind of that pop psych. It's very popular, to cut off, have these cut
Cancel
off. Can't just cancel it. Just forget it. Just, it's very, I know you and I see lots of people that, oh, my daughter's not talking to me. Oh, my mother's not, like that have people in their lives that are cutoffs. And, that's a hard line to walk, so that cutoff, it's something that you shouldn't do lightly.
It shouldn't be a hasty decision. It shouldn't be your first plan or your second plan or your third plan. I do think it should take a little while before you get to cut off. Unless there's like physical abuse or immediate danger of some kind, cutoff shouldn't be your first option.
Well, and that's the thing. A cutoff is necessary if you aren't safe.
That's it.
You know, and there's physical safety, but there's emotional safety.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a cutoff, but then there's a pause. You know, sometimes when we're working with clients and they're in like an emotionally abusive relationship, sometimes they have to put a pause on that relationship until they can become empowered themselves to deal with it in a different way.
Absolutely. And there's a difference between a pause and a cutoff. And there's a difference between a cutoff and a pause and a loosening. There are levels to this. And I think I love that we're opening up that this is a spectrum and not just, they hurt you, it's done.
Yes.
You felt drained in this conversation today, we're done.
Yeah. That's pretty traumatic.
It is.
And dramatic.
Dramatic
and traumatic.
Yep.
Yeah. I think there's an intentionality. That thing. There's being intentional in relationships. I think, you know, not just rushing to the cutoff.
Yeah. Because you can make a decision like that. And if you need to make a decision like that, you do. And there's grief involved and planning and all the things involved. And also you incur the cost of that. You incur the risk of that. Like you have to decide that being safe from the situation is worth the cost that I'll pay in losing you. It's worth how our relationship is going to change, the years that I'll miss.
In a relationship, it's not just the relationship that you're going to lose, you know, in a relationship with a family. You know, a lot of times it's other relationships. It affects the whole entire dynamics of a family.
Network.
Yeah. It's there's multiple relationships that are broken and damaged from a cutoff.
And resources and memories and all kind of stuff. And that's where we're kind of saying, if assess the cost. You will know when you assess the cost if what you're leaving, the cost of leaving is this is hard to say. You will know when you assess the cost if what you're paying is worth what you're going to get. If the safety that you need because of the harm that you've experienced is so necessary, then I'll pay the cost.
Yeah. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I don't want to buy a car with no seatbelts.
Yes.
But it might cost a little extra. but it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because if I go through the windshield, I'm going to be upset. I might be more than upset.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
You know, but the cost is worth it for me.
Absolutely. So the last thing, you know, with the cutoff, if you don't do the cutoff, you know, or maybe you can take a break, is the retying. You know, how do we retie that relationship? How do we retie the strings in a positive and healthy way?
Yeah. One of the things I think I've loved in this process of you and I writing this book and really evaluating family relationships, especially those with adult parents and adult children. I've gotten to retie some of my relationships.
Oh,
it's been
beautiful.
It has been.
Yeah.
It really has been. And some of them I was like, I don't know. But now I'm less unsure if this is going to be able to come back together. It is already coming back together, which I love. And I think when you do the loosening part well, or if you do the cutoff part or the break part well, not vindictively, not to hurt you, not to get back at you, but you do what you need to do to take care of you and heal you up, you can do retying well.
Yes,
I come to reattaching to you differently than if I was unhealed.
Absolutely. So, you know, when you're doing the retying, it's new patterns. It's a new vision. You know, like it's one of the things I do with my couples is like, what is your vision? What's your vision for the next 10 years? You know, or you can have a family vision, you know, and every time a family changes stages, you need a new vision.
You do. They're not the same anymore.
It doesn't work the same way, you know, and even the dynamics of who's home and who's not home. And, you know, so like really leaning in, the retying, the new patterns, like this dynamic that we had is not healthy. This guilt thing that we do, or this, you know, how are we going to do this differently? And just being very intentional about how you do that. And it's beautiful to see because there's a rebirth of the relationship.
Yeah. And it gets to be something that I think neither one of you thought it could have been, you know, and sometimes it's what you hoped, but a lot of times it's much better and much different than what you hoped.
Well, you know, and when people grow, they can grow together.
Yeah.
You know, they can grow together.
Sweet.
So, what are some things that we can recognize with healthy relationships and healthy boundaries? We talked about some of the toxic things that we see. One of the things is respect, mutual respect.
Yeah. Yeah. It is like the person I was talking about earlier, since we've had that conversation, when I talk, I feel like they're really listening to me. Oh. And sometimes they'll say, "Oh, Kiarra, I really like that you said that." And I'll say, "Thank you. I feel so good about that," And we didn't have a lot of that before. And I give that same thing to them. And it just feels like we both leave the conversation like refreshed and feeling good. And I love that.
Yeah.
And that's mutual respect.
Yeah. And another one is that we can truly celebrate each other's victories. I love friends and family where we can truly be excited for each other. It's so fun to tell someone something that like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you." Like, isn't that fun?
Yeah. I love that.
That's I had a friend, we had kids that were the same age when our kids were, she had two daughters that were the same age, two of my daughters. Anyway, she was always so happy for my, she's like, "Oh, I've never had anyone be so enthusiastic and excited about what my kids were doing and how we were like." It's so fun when other people, we can have a connection where they celebrate each other's victories.
And that feels like connection. And that kind of connection is healing and restoring for yourself.
And that's a really positive way to do that.
Yeah.
And then what about the sparking joy? Like relationships that spark joy.
Yeah. I love relationships that bring up wonder, curiosity. Do they make space for you to explore some of the parts of you that you would hide, that you'd
Yes. They make you better.
Yeah. They let you be you, even down to the quirky parts of you. Those relationships, you want to keep those. You want to keep those.
Well, and I just feel like in the world, and life is short, and it's wonderful to make connections that we can grow, be ourselves, and that bring out the best in us.
Yeah, we need them.
Yes.
They
need them.
And we desperately need them.
And that's why we need to focus on those instead of the toxic ones.
Yeah. Wow, this is good.
I hope so.
We end with a high five.
Thank you for joining us on The Therapist's Couch, presented by the Sozo Wellness Institute. We hope today's conversation offered you insight, inspiration, and a sense of connection on your journey toward authentic living. If you found value in this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing it with someone who might benefit. To continue the conversation and access additional services, follow us on Instagram or TikTok at the.therapists.couch or visit our website at sozowellnessinstitute.com. Until next time, please be well.